Hello and welcome back to the training. I'm Dr. Cameron Daniels. Today, as you can see by the title, we're going to be talking about why your dizziness, POTS, and migraine are linked and the overlap that no one commonly talks about. Before we get started, really quick, I'm Dr. Cameron Daniels. I'm a neurological specialist where I focus on the upper two bones of the neck as an upper cervical chiropractor, focusing on the atlas and the axis to restore neurological integrity inside of the human body. What I see commonly in my clinic is migraine, POTS, chronic fatigue syndrome, dizziness, vertigo. So what I'd like to do is provide educational-based content to help people better understand their condition. With that being said, if you benefit from this training in any way, shape, or form, please like. You never know if it's your like or your subscribe that could actually bring this or the algorithm, bring it to someone who needs it. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So today, like I said, we're talking about why your dizziness, POTS, and migraine are linked and the overlap that no one tells you. A great quote by someone who I really admire, B.J. Palmer, says that the preservation of health is easier to cure, or the preservation of health is easier than the cure of disease. It's much easier to preserve our health than it is to cure the disease when it onsets. Let me go ahead and take you through a story real quick. It starts with the feeling, right? That constant shift. It feels like the world sways, but it doesn't spin. Then that feeling takes over. The lightheadedness, the constant boat sensation, and you're starting to avoid things like the grocery stores or even driving. You start to get the diagnostic runaround where Dr. 1 tells you that it's in your inner ear, Dr. 2 says that you have anxiety, and you start avoiding, and you start to get labels like PPPD, which is persistent postural perceptual dizziness, which we'll get to later. Here's where the confusion sets in. But my heart races when I stand up. I have strange auras or chronic neck pain. It's like a Venn diagram that doesn't seem to connect itself. Your confusion is very valid, my friend. Very valid. Top studies actually show that chronic dizziness, migraine, and autonomic issues are always tangled. And it's not one thing. It's actually a three-way overlap. So the fact that there's a three-way overlap, let's go ahead and give you your three-step map. My entire goal of this video is for you to be able to untangle this knot today, be able to understand that this is actually, clarifying information, not just complexity, that you are actually experiencing what you say that you're experiencing, and don't let any doctor tell you that you're not. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is a story. We're going to meet Amelia and see her misdiagnosis journey, something that you're probably very familiar with. Next, the mechanism, the clinical why, right, between POTS and migraine and how they are all linked. It's a common brain wiring that you must stick around in order to genuinely understand this concept. And finally, the reframe. This is how this overlap becomes your specific map to your specific treatment regarding your specific condition. So let's talk about Amelia. Amelia wakes up one day. She's tired of feeling dizzy after a viral illness or a major stress that happened in her life. She's going through grief. She goes through a very bad divorce. She had a viral disease like EBV or strep, something that put her down for a good amount of time and started experiencing this dizziness after, right? She realized that there was a constant lightheadedness and swaying, especially scrolling or in bright hallways, very common. The initial diagnosis, we sent you to see PPPD, which is there's this persistent swaying that's happening in certain situations. It's explained the persistence of it, which is one of the P's, is persistence, but not other pieces. Here's where the missing piece comes in. She started tracking her heart. Standing up, her heart rate jumps 40 plus beats than it is sitting down. Brain fog hits. POTS is now on the scene. Now 2 diagnoses. Still missing something. Regular severe dizzy attacks. No spinning, but crushing sensitivity to light and sound. This is the migraine component. What has society told us in this instance, right? We have a lot of parts doctors in the world, a lot of heart doctors, head doctors, foot doctors, knee doctors. We have a lot of parts doctors, but we rarely have any doctors that look at the overall piece of it. So here's the thing. Amelia had 3 overlapping syndromes. This is very common, especially in women between the ages of 15 to 45 years old, oftentimes older. I just put this in here as general, but 15 to 45, it starts really young, and then as we progress and get older, it does not stop. So where's the overlap? The overlap is the shared brain wiring. This is the why, right? These mental conditions are neurological neighbors. They share pathways in the brainstem, which is responsible for balance and autonomic function. Brainstem is the most critical area in our entire body, point blank, period, end of story. Your brainstem sits right here, in between or kind of like right behind your ear. And this is often a pain point for a lot of people. So young to middle-aged women are in the epicenter of this condition, and the gender and age pattern are consistently observed in clinical cohorts, such as Lee and Kim in 2014. I'll always, if I reference research, I'll always put my references in here. Now, the data, the overlap is huge. Listen to this. 84% of people that experience POTS, 84% also have migraine. And that's not a coincidence. What this is called, my friend, is shared vulnerability. There's something going on that we need to get to the center of. These are not two separate conditions. These are conditions in actual, these are conditions that we need to be able to address and find what the common link is throughout all of this. The shared wiring is this. It's a sympathetic overload that's happening. Think of your nervous system as a car. POTS is the gas pedal stuck on. You're flooring the gas pedal. Racing heart, poor digestion, temperature intolerance. Your nervous system is constantly fighting gravity. It's constantly going. It is sympathetic overdrive. Migraine is a faulty electrical circuit. There's hypersensitivity in your brain, which is easily triggered by sounds and bright lights. Okay? Now get this. The POTS stress, like I've just stated, sympathetic overload. It makes migraine circuit easier to trip. So we see that these two are linked, right? These are not separate. These are linked. And what we find is that the differential is that we need to find the dominant trigger. This is the key to understanding the clarity. So for example, POTS dizziness, this is triggered by standing, but it's relieved very quickly by sitting, which is what makes sense because when we stand up, right, the orthostatic or the change in our body position from sitting to standing, this is where we see a lot of symptoms pop up with POTS. So it makes sense that the dizziness of POTS is triggered by simply sitting to standing. Vestibular migraine is triggered by attacks. So this is something genuinely attacking the system, such as stress, sleep, change in behaviors, something that's not normal that seems to be causing, the certain dizziness as well as pain inside of the head. But it doesn't always have to have pain inside of the head, which is a whole different conversation. This can last hours to days, often with very severe head pressure. PPPD. This is triggered by visual environments, such as crowds or certain patterns, and it's a persistent baseline dizziness. I like to think of this one, that you see some of those videos like where you're looking at the screen and then the screen is changing. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening on the screen and you kind of feel lightheaded, spaced out. The video is meant to make you feel that way. It's that same feeling without actually stimulating anything like a video. People actually experience this by just looking at crowds or different patterns that are not meant to stimulate the central nervous system in that way. So what's the targeted action from this? Ask your doctor for a tilt table test. This is very, very characteristic of a POTS test, or a vestibular function test, which is what also looks at the inner ear. And these targeted approaches are how doctors establish a differential diagnosis. One thing, too, to be able to look at, and I see it all the time, get your central nervous system checked. Your central nervous system controls every single cell, tissue, and organ in your entire body. Entire body, not just one, every single cell, tissue, organ in your entire body. And if you look at a lot of these conditions, migraines, dizziness, POTS, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, all these conditions based on research show that they have some form of dominance or sympathetic overload in the sympathetic nervous system. So that would make sense to test it, correct? So I add in here, make sure that you're getting your central nervous system checked to try to see if there's actually something going on with that. If you're interested in learning exactly how that looks, please schedule a call with me. The link is in my description on my YouTube page. The map to treatment. The overlap feels defeating. You think you're broken. I need you to stop this thinking. I have found it it's not frequent, but I find it a good amount of times where people already lose the battle inside of their heads. Now, not that the problem's coming from their head, which is a completely different conversation. Not that the problem's coming from your head, but I do see people lose the mental battle of their diagnosis. You are not vestibular migraines. You are not PPPD. You are not POTS. You are simply more than likely if you're watching this, you are simply someone between the age of 25 and 55 years old who is struggling and suffering, but you are still a unique individual and your body is made to heal itself. And that's the truth. That is the truth. I have found that people who cannot get out of that headspace are very, very hard to treat Not in a sense of, pills, potions, or lotions giving to them to help get rid of their symptoms, but from a perspective of, mentally, even if you get rid of the symptoms, they still embody their diagnosis. It's a very, very sad thing to see, but it's also very, very real. This is the reframe. The complexity that you're experiencing is your roadmap. This is your map that you need to tell your doctors about. It tells us exactly where to treat, and you have 3 targets, not just one mystery. Think of a fire in your house. I like to put this analogy in there because of this reason. Think of a fire in your house, right? The smoke is the dizziness. The blown circuit is the migraine. The clogged pipe is the POTS. And so when we see this, we need to treat the circuit, then we need to treat the pressure, and then we need to treat the damage. This means a multi-pronged approach is very, very critical and necessary to be able to manage these types of patients. POTS management, right? We want to increase salts, increase fluids, compression, stabilize volume. Migraine management, prevent therapies to lower the brain's threshold. And then PPPD retraining, vestibular therapy to recalibrate visual and movement input. The common source in all 3 of these is a loss of central nervous system function, which is why I'm telling you to get your nervous system checked. So this is your next step. Your homework, be your own best advocate. Be the detailed storyteller, right? Tell your doctor these things. Yes, unfortunately, there's a lot of doctors that you try to talk to, and when you try to talk to them, it seems like they're kind of just like discrediting you. They're just trying to just toss something at you. But there are doctors out there who want to understand and hear exactly where this is coming from, where this started, where it comes from, because it helps us diagnose the condition a lot better. Action step, we want to start tracking. Okay, we want to separate the standing triggers from the light and stress triggers. This can help differentiate the type of diagnosis. You are not crazy. You are not alone. This is an overloaded system, not a broken one. Overload, not broken. You are not broken. The body's not broken. The only way the body genuinely breaks itself is at death. And the fact that you're watching this is a tremendous blessing to yourself, meaning that there's still breath in your lungs. And so we need to understand that there's an overloaded system. A lot of stress coming into the system, and the body's not able to effectively process this. So what we want to do is be able to increase the body's resiliency to stress, decrease the stress load. That way, as these stressors are coming in, your body's actually able to function in a way in which it's intended. It's not broken, it's overloaded. And you have the knowledge now. Now, the question is, are you ready to start healing? So here's a call to action. I asked you to comment below which of these 3, POTS, migraine, or triple PD, feels like the dominant force for you. And let's talk about it. I'd love to start something in the comments, be able to see exactly who it is that's watching this and what exactly it is that you're suffering from. So I hope that this video was of benefit to you. Again, please like, share, and subscribe to someone who needs it. You never know if it's your subscription or if it's your like that will push the algorithm to someone who needs it. I've seen it far, far too often where people end up doing something substantial to their lives because they didn't know that this type of information exists. Until next time, God bless you. I'll see you in the next video.